Hello, everybody. Today we're going to do a review of two present tenses in English that are present simple and present continuous. We're going to see the functions, when do we use them, also the structures, how we form these tenses, and also we're going to see some examples and practice with some exercises. Okay, so let's start. So let's start with these two sentences here. So I teach English and I am teaching English. So if we see the first sentence, I teach English, I am saying or I am telling you that this is my job, this is my profession. I do this on a common basis, okay? And I am teaching English. This is what I am doing at the moment. I am teaching you English. So this is one of the difference that we have to see between these two tenses, okay? More examples. For example, they live in the USA. Obviously, this is simple present. And I am studying for the exams these days. And this is present continuous. And we're going to see why right now. So what is the difference? If we look at the first sentence again, they live in the USA, that means that the people that are referring in the sentence live in this country all the time. So this is a permanent state, right? It's something common, it's something that is repeated or permanent or has a permanent state. On the other hand, if I use this sentence here, I am studying for the exams these days, that means that I am studying only these days, only these several days. This action is not permanent. This action is temporary. This action is taking place only for a short period of time. So basically, that is the difference between simple present and present continuous. The one is used for expressing or showing a permanent state, something that is common, something that is usual, and I'm using present continuous to relate or to say something that is happening momentarily, okay? Something that is temporary, that happens only for a short period. Now, let's go with the structure. How do we form the present simple? In this case, we have to be very careful because in present simple tense, we have to differentiate between the third person singular and the other persons that we can talk, okay? So when with pronouns like I, you, we, or they, we normally use the verb as it is. For example, I live, you live, we live, or they live. But in the case of the third person singular, which is he, she, and it, these three pronouns here, we have to be very careful because in the present simple, in the affirmative sentences, we have to add an s to the verb. So some examples here: I live in the USA. As you see, I'm using the pronoun I. I have to use the verb as it is normally, okay? But in the second one, I have she studies architecture. So in this case, using a third person singular, which is she. So in this case, we have to use the verb with the IES form. We have to add that to the verb. In the case of the verb be, and we have to be very careful about this, guys. In this case, the verb be works alone. Okay, in the simple present, the verb be works alone. So in the case of I, obviously you're going to use am. For he, she, or it, you're going to use is. And we, you, and they, you're going to use are, the verb be form are. So remember, in this case, we're talking about simple present. And in the simple present, we have to use only one verb at a time. If we need to use one verb like live, eat, run, have, walk, we have to use only that verb. And if I have to use the verb be, I have to use only the verb be. I cannot combine, I cannot use these two verbs together. I cannot use the verb be with another verb in the simple form, okay? So an example here, I am a teacher and you are students. And as you say, I'm using just one verb at a time. I'm using just the verb be here, I am a teacher. And also here, I'm using the verb be, only the verb be, you are students. I'm not combining two verbs, okay? So be careful about that. Also, for the negative forms, if with all the verbs that are not the verb be, we have to use the auxiliaries don't or doesn't, depending on the pronoun on the person that we're talking. Okay. Again, if we use the pronouns I, we, you, or they, we're going to use the auxiliary, the negative auxiliary don't. For example, I don't live in the USA. Okay, or do not if you don't want to use the contraction. In the case of the third person singular, he, she, or it, you have to use the auxiliary doesn't, but in this case, you don't have the verb anymore. So she studied architecture as a negative form. She doesn't study architecture, or she does not study architecture if you don't want to use the contraction. In the case of the verb be, remember that this verb works separately. You cannot combine, again, two verbs in the simple present, either in positive or negative forms, okay? So in this case, it is very simple. You just have to add the word not after the verb be. So for example, I am tired, I am not tired. She is rich, she is not rich. They are here, they are not here. So in this case, for the verb be, it's very simple because you just have to use or have to add the verb not, the word not after the verb be. For the questions and short answers, again, depending on that we're using, we have to use auxiliaries or the verb be. In the case of verbs like live, study, have, walk, eat, we have to use, again, two auxiliaries depending on the pronoun. So for example, I, you, we, or they, we have to use do. Like in the first example, do you live in the USA? Or if we are talking about the third person singular, she, or it, you have to use the auxiliary does and the verb in the normal form. So do you live in the USA? You have to answer with the same auxiliary. So in this case, you can answer yes, I do, or no, I don't, if it is negative. In the case of third person, happens the same. So does she study medicine? Yes, she does. No, she doesn't. In the case of the verb be, it's simple because you have to just use the verb be in the question. You don't have to use auxiliaries. And the only thing that you have to do is change the position of the verb be in the question. So are they friends? With the verb be, in this case, are they friends? And you have to answer with the same, in this case, with the same verb in the answer. So yes, they are, or no, they aren't if it is negative. Remember again, guys, in simple present, you cannot combine the two verbs. You cannot combine the verb be with another verb, or in this case, as we're working with questions, you cannot use auxiliaries with the verb be. So again, we use a simple present for facts or things that are always or generally true. For example, water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. It rains a lot in Lithuania, and the sky is blue. Just one verb at a time. For situations that are more or less permanent, I live in New York, John works in a bank, Lisa studies architecture. For routines or hobbies or habits, every day I get up at 7:30, I have a shower and I eat breakfast. I take the train to work. Every Thursday I play basketball. And for actions that are scheduled, for example, the train leaves at 9 p.m., the lessons start at 8 o'clock. Some adverbs of frequency and time phrases that we can use in the simple present that demonstrate obviously how often we do the actions. So for example, always, often, usually, sometimes, rarely, never, once a week, twice a month, every day, 4 times a year, every Tuesday, depending on the frequency that we do the actions that we are expressing in the sentences. So for example, I never go to the cinema alone, or my grandmother sees her doctor twice a month. Now let's go with the present continuous. So remember, present continuous, something that is temporary, something that is happening only at the moment. In this case, we have to now be careful, because in the present continuous, we always are going to use two verbs together. In this case, we're going to use the verb be and another verb that is going to end with the ing form with a gerund. Okay, so in this case we have to use the two ones. Remember that in the simple present tense we only had to use one verb, either play or walk or eat, or only the verb be. But in this case, for the present continuous tense, we have to use both verbs always. So the verb be first and then the principal verb with ing. For example, I am eating, you are playing, he is singing, she is studying, it is traveling, and so on. How do we do the negative forms here? So in this case, since we are using the verb be, we don't have to use auxiliaries. We don't use don't or doesn't. Okay? In this case, we are only going to add the word not after the verb be. So for example, are you eating? I am not eating. Is she singing? She is not singing. Are they reading? They are not reading. So either for negative or question, we don't have to use auxiliaries, just the verb be. When do we use the present continuous? So for actions that are happening at the moment, right now, at the moment of speaking. So for example, it is raining outside. Or for example, he can. If we see the image, we can pick. He can pick up the phone because he's having a shower now. This moment. For temporary actions, for example, we are looking for a new house at the moment, and if we see the image, they are painting the fence. This moment, temporary action. For fixed arrangements, and this is more when we talk about the. For example, I am going out with him tonight. This is a plan that you have already arranged. And we are flying to Paris tomorrow morning. And for currently changing or developing situations. For example, the earth is getting hotter and hotter. The winters in Lithuania are becoming warmer and warmer. The prices are increasing all the time. Okay, something that is happening, a situation that is currently happening or changing. So time expressions that we can use with the present continuous. For example, now, at the moment, at present, these days, nowadays, today, tonight. Something that expresses something that is temporary or that happens in this moment. Okay. So my mother is cooking at the moment. I'm going dancing tonight. Okay. So just to remember, simple present are truths, routines and habits, permanent situations, or timetables. Okay, remember, in this case, we have to use only one verb at a time, either the verb be or another verb. And for present continuous, something to express that something that is happening now, some changing or developing situations, temporary situations, or fixed future plans. And remember that always with the present continuous, we have to use two verbs, the verb be and the principal verb with ing. Okay, so that is the topic for today's guys. See you later.